Now we're going to talk about check raising the turn to find out where you're at. Once again, this isn't a play I'm too fond of, but it can be useful in certain situations against the right opponents. It's basically like an extension of the Johnny Chan check call lead the turn play, only by using the check raise to help define your opponent's hand, possibly bluff him off a better hand, and protect yourself from facing a larger river bet. Let's look at an example. With blinds at 25-50, a player raises from middle position to 150. You call from the small blind with pocket nines, and it's a two of you to the flop, queen, seven, deuce. You check and your opponent bets 300. Unsure if your hand is good against an aggressive player who routinely bets the flop after raising, you decide to call and see what the turn brings. The turn is a 7. You could use the Chan play here, but you're worried that the particular player is capable of sniffing out the weak lead play and will bluff raise you. You check and now your opponent bets 600. Still unsure as to whether your hand is good, you could call and hope that the river bet is small, or you could check raise the turn to define your opponent's hand. The 7 should scare your opponent a little bit if he doesn't have it. You could easily have a hand like 7-8. With the flush draw present, your opponent may even bet a hand like pocket 4s to protect it against what he perceives to be a flush draw. Your biggest worry, though, is that if you call 600 now, your opponent, an extremely aggressive player, is capable of firing a third bet at the pot on the river, making a large bet on the river and putting you in a difficult situation. One defense against that is to check raise the minimum or close to it on the turn. Anything from 1200 to 1500 should scare your opponent, and he will almost never play back at you as a bluff. If he re-raises you after you make this play, you should feel pretty safe that your pocket nines are definitely beat. Again, the added bonus here is that your opponent may let go of pocket jacks or pocket tens to your raise. However, if your opponent does call the turn raise, you should check the river unless, of course, you hit the 9. Your opponent should be slightly worried that you're going for another check raise here on the river and will likely be happy to check down the best hand if he has you beat. So in essence, you'd be paying him off on the turn, but on your terms. You decided how much the river bet would be by check raising the turn. Of course, if your opponent calls the turn and then bets the river when you check, he has you beat. It's plain and simple. The only hand he could have that he'd be bluffing with on the river is a missed flush draw. Even then, very few players would bluff at the river in the situation after you check raise the turn.